Okay, so now that we have the basics of our dynamic processors down, our compressors, our limiters, our gates, where are we going to place them? I mean, across a channel, across an entire drum kit, or across an entire mix? I mean, where are we going to place them? Well, I guess the answer is kind of D, all of the above. In fact, there are even more ways to route these effects in parallel or even in a side chain. And what the heck is that? You might be asking. Well, all will be revealed in time. But let's just start off with the basics, the very basics of routing. So let's look at a standard mixer and the most basic compressor that I could think of, which is just a single channel compressor limiter made by DBX or 160A. They've been around basically forever. So this compressor needs to have an input, and like we said before, whatever signal you input into that compressor then goes first through the detection circuit to decide whether it is a candidate for gain reduction. In other words, is it above a certain threshold? Is the knee set? Actually, this guy, I don't think this guy has a knee setting, but anyway, I digress. So the input goes through the detection circuit. If it's deemed to be above a threshold and eligible for gain reduction, then it does the gain reduction, and then that goes through to the output. So where would we place that on a typical mixer? Let's look at a mixer like this. The most obvious place for it to go is to go in line with any particular channel. So say the first channel is a mono channel and that has a kick drum. So we could place that compressor across the first channel and we could compress just the kick drum. But let's imagine we had a bunch of different drum channels that we were subgrouping. You could then place that compressor across a subgroup if you like. And that way you could compress your entire drums instead of just a single channel. And in the hardware world, this is quite useful because every hardware compressor is dollars out of your pocket. It's not like in the software world. And then the third typical place you might want to place it is across the main mix. Now this particular compressor that I've talked about, the 160X, would not be a good candidate to go across your main mix because, as you know, your main mix is typically left and right. It's a stereo mix. So you would need a stereo compressor to place it across your main mix. It might look like something like this, where your compressor is just bang, just placed right in line with a single channel to compress a single vocal, maybe an entire drum kit across some groups here, or an entire mix. So how would you route something like this in the hardware world? Well, you would take a cable like this, which is a special cable that has a TRS tip ring sleeve on this end and two standard jacks on the other end. You can use a cable like this to plug into an insert into your mixer, and this basically breaks into your channel. It's like if I just hacked in the middle of this channel and then broke this out so I could insert something across these guys. So just for fun, I mean, you could put a coupling adapter here to complete the circuit, but the regular thing you would do here is insert something like this, like a compressor, and then you'll just have to experiment which jack is which is the input and which is the output. But once you do that, you can then complete those connections, and then now if this was plugged into the insert here, this compressor could be placed right into your signal chain. It's kind of like an old school equivalent of a plug-in, if you know what I mean. Now, a couple of things to note. This compressor right here is a two-channel compressor, meaning that it could either compress two independent channels here, or you could place it across a couple of subgroups, or even the entire stereo mix.